What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for getting along on Donny Vermilion. Brian, let's hear the mutation.
Donny Vermilion, the best map in the game, is where we have to gather 20 xenon crystals and return them to the stabilizer in the middle of our base. The crystals appear once lava recedes from the low ground, but we need to flee to the high ground while the lava is up. Half of very attack wave and every base is immune to you, and the other half to your ally. Supply is added for both commanders, but the supply limit is individually built and capped for each.
Alright, that's sharing is caring and polarity. So, Sticksbender and Evil Leg are both in the call with us today. How are you guys?
Okay. Yeah.
Been better,
Sore
been
and
worse.
sunburned.
Alright,
Been less tired.
that works for me. So, let's begin. Evil Leg, how will we rank the commanders this week?
Commanders this week, Polarity is a problem. You need to have tanky commanders, but also sharing and carrying is a problem. You're going to need commanders that are tanky, but also can accomplish the mission with very low supply, less than 100 supply if possible. So
How about you,
anyone
Sticksbender?
Yeah, you can also add to tanky that it could just be base. It doesn't necessarily have to be with raw tanking. It can be with, crowd control based stuff. But generally you want that coupled with supply efficiency.
That makes sense. Let's begin. Abathur, what do we have him?
Abathur, I have him A to B. Polarity is going to be a problem because of farming or farming purposes. But once he gets his ultimate evolutions going, if you're using P0 or even P2, you only need to have your 6 ultimate evolutions and you should be able to accomplish a mission, which are going to be very supply efficient.
How about you, Sticksbender?
Yeah, pretty much. He's a very supply efficient. Abathur's a very supply efficient man. He doesn't need a lot. He just needs biomass. He also is resource efficient. He just needs biomass. So you can just skip expanding in order to save all that, supply that would have been spent on workers, which is also nice. Probably, I'm not entirely sure if he would be A or B, honestly, like at first thought. So somewhere in that range, though.
So, which one do we prefer?
Sexy slug, not man.
Which do we prefer, A or B?
Let's be optimistic and put him in A for now.
Okay. Personally, I had him in C because early game is everything for Abathur, and Donny Vermilion is one of those maps where it's not easy to get biomass, so you actually have to wait for the first wave, especially if your ally doesn't cooperate in getting biomass. And if it's Sky Tier, you're just kind of screwed.
Honestly, the thing is that Donny Vermilion, part of the reason that you can't get biomass that early easily is because the map just puts on very little pressure early. So you can kind of just not have problems.
You just kind of let your ally do the work. But anyway.
Well, no, you can just remember, you literally have to work your ally. There's polarity. You just can let the enemy crash into your toxic nests, and what are they gonna do? They send a wave every couple of minutes. They don't have any pressing time objectives early game. You can literally get the first 8 crystals without killing a unit.
The thing is, by the time your ally is ready to push into the expansion, you don't have anything. Maybe a roach.
No. By the time the ally is ready to push into the expansion, you've had enough attack waves slam into your base that you've gotten enough biomass to have a Brutalisk or 2.
Takes you until 6 minutes to get. Okay, if you guys both have him in A, it's not up to me. Yeah, you guys had him in A. Let's put him in A. Alarak, where do we have?
Alarak. So Alarak's a bit interesting because he doesn't have anything tanky, but he does have good crowd control. He can knock back enemies with his angry arm flailing, and if your ally doesn't have any cloaked units, if your ally doesn't have any cloaked units and the enemy is Protoss, then Alarak can just build a force field of sentries. Technically, that's a little bit of a sketchy strategy because one thing goes wrong and anyone just starts sending detection, the whole thing falls apart. But technically speaking, can be pretty effective to just be like, you know what, I don't want to deal with units today, or I don't want to deal with units today. That was the original thought. Because you just wall them all off, and the air units will leash to stick with the ground wave that they're supposed to be a part of, and so Amon just kind of stands there awkwardly, not knowing what to do. The bigger strategy to use, though, is just to have Alarak use his knockback to handle early waves, making sure you give your ally all the time in the world to kill them, and then snowballing into a very A-move comp of probably like Wrathwalkers or Stalkers. I guess since we put Abathur up in A, we can put him also in A.
How about
for
you,
now.
eviling?
Maybe we stick both of them in B for now. Just promote later.
All right. How about you eviling?
Alarak, I have him from S to A. So he's very supply efficient. You probably need at most 50 supply to accomplish the mission. His mothership doesn't cost any supply.
Correct.
And it's really tanky. Supplicants are really tanky. And his destruction wave can knock back unpolarized units. So you can say, here, ally, go deal with this, and I'm gonna shove them your way. And have supplicants tank in the meantime. If Alarak's taking heat, just get him out of there. Have a war prism available, so that way it allows you to kind of juggle Alarak in and out, so that way, or if you have enough supplicants, it kind of doesn't matter if they're targeting Alarak.
Would the fact
So,
that the supplicants consume 2 supply each, so for every warpin you consume 4 supply, be a problem that you would create for your ally if you make too many?
If you make too many, that's the key with most of these commanders, is you need to be very conscientious about how much supply you're using. So if you can control yourself and don't do mass warpins of supplicants all the time, just make sure you have enough so that it keeps Alarak from eating the rest of your army and allows you to have kind of a tanky meat shield around you. You should be fine.
All right.
But if you don't know how to control that, yeah, it's gonna be a problem.
So Sticksbender, are you still A to B or more like?
Yeah, we can put Alarak in A. I would also note that Alarak doesn't need an expansion, and for this mutation, anyone who doesn't need an expansion probably doesn't want it, because all that you're going to end up doing with that extra money from the expansion is sitting around going, I want to spend it, but then I'd use up all my allies' supply.
That makes sense. So A.
Yeah.
Do we put Abathur down to B?
B makes sense because
Yeah.
Polarity, again, it's going to make farming biomass a little hard. Alarak, he doesn't need to farm anything.
That's what
He
I
just
said.
needs to farm those minerals and gas.
So are we okay with putting Abathur to B? Sticksbender.
That makes sense.
All right. So Alarak A, Abathur B. Without prestige, Alarak still A?
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Like,
the lack of the mothership be a
you're
concern?
missing the mothership, which is a pretty reasonably sized step down. But the thing is that what you still have is you are still getting the hero unit that is able to have knockback in the early game, and you still the funny thing is, yeah, you have the mothership, but you actually don't want to be using your destroyers that much anyways, because they're not that supply efficient. They're more cost efficient.
Yes.
So you'll probably be fine with just having Alarak and then just going straight into Wrathwalkers if that's what you end up doing.
Wouldn't
it will not be the
Ascendants
end
be
of the
more
world.
supply efficient?
You can use Ascendants. They are more brittle for the problem of Polarity. Plus, if you're sending out the Psi Orbs and they're, all the things that you can hit are thinned out by the things you can't hit. That's a bit of pain, but it
All right.
works still.
I guess there's also the benefit of now the overcharge doesn't target doesn't target polarized units anymore. So I guess that's a buff also. So does Alarak still stay in A without prestige? I actually think he goes down to at least B without prestige, because the mothership is such a huge anchor in the early game. But I don't know.
I feel like it's A, but yeah.
I think he's still A because you don't need. So if you're not getting the mothership, you're not down 400. That way you can get your supplicants up and going with their upgrades, and you can just focus on that. It's not that much of a detriment, in my opinion.
All right, so both of you had him A even without prestige. Arcturus, where do we have him?
Arcturus, unfortunately, depends a lot on having an army, a standing army of some sort. ESOs, even that too, you still want to fill them up with troopers. Still takes up a lot of supply. With that being said, he's going to struggle, or he's going to make allies struggle. And the other aspect, a lot of his stuff is not really tanky, so he's going to be losing a lot of stuff to Polarity. I have him from B to C, more leaning towards C.
What do you think, Sticksbender?
Oh, I would have thought that Arcturus would actually go right up into A because because of the fact that ESOs can just stun lock, especially if you go for the first prestige. So that means that your ESOs have a shorter cooldown, Catastrophe Strike, less energy cost, and triple fear duration. You can just kind of perma-fear everything. And also, do remember, it's a little bit flaky on this map, but you can still get the whole causing the enemies to forget what they're doing thing on this map. It's just less consistent than it is on other maps. It's still a thing. So just getting entire waves to just not show up to your front door is obviously pretty helpful. So,
And
I would say
the fact that
I would say miss.
And the fact that you're consuming supply really fast to the detriment of your ally doesn't factor into this.
I think that you can consume relatively less supply than you might think. think. Keep in mind that since we want ESOs primarily for their contaminated strike power, less for their firing power, it's okay if you have like a core of like 5, 10 ESOs that are actually loaded, and then the rest are just unloaded, empty, contaminated strike bots.
I guess that makes sense. So, how about you, Eviling? Oh wait,
That
you
is a
did say,
fair
you did say,
assessment.
yeah, you did say A to B. So wait, you said B to C, all right? Yeah, I think you
I
did
said
say
B to C, leaning toward more C.
Yeah, I actually had Arcturus in B because of he is good, but yeah, I did have Arcturus in C because of the aforementioned supply thing. Also, Earth splitters are great, but if it's not that difficult to mess up the contaminated strike thing. If you get all the enemies, great, but I'm not sure I would trust that to the average player to actually hit those targets. What do you guys think about that?
I agree with Sticks that he can be very supply efficient, but that requires the player to have good discipline on how much supply they're consuming. You can get away with, if you get 8, my ideal is 8 to 9 Earth Splitters. That will make for good contaminated strike hits with a little slack, and you don't need to fill them, especially if it's an air comp. Yeah, you kind of don't want to fill them. You want to have them in bunkers or equipped with rockets to deal with an air comp.
Okay, so
with that being said, it still requires discipline to make sure you don't screw over your ally, and
it's easy to screw over your ally. That being said, it's kind of easy for Arcturus to just correct by just running his guy to the lava, because of course that's what he would do.
Oh, that I forgot about the lava aspect to help correct supply issues. Jeez.
Not sure Arcturus. I'm not sure if people will do that though. Like run their own guys into the lava to free up an ally who might be struggling with supply. And something that I've noted on playing on the solo queue, it's not typical for allies to communicate that, hey, I need more supply. Sometimes Arcturus just goes on chugging along, and he doesn't realize that his ally cannot make any units. And the ally cannot communicate, especially if they have different first languages. For example, on the Korea server, or on the Asia server, you have both Korea and China now. And the European server, it's a bunch of different languages. So I'm not sure how. And the NA server, we have all the Southeast Asian guys, and everyone. So, I'm really iffy on the supply concern because you can't just communicate with your ally if you're on the solo queue.
I think we have Arcturus ranging from A to C. Let's meet somewhere in the middle and say B, maybe.
You guys okay with Sticksbender? You okay with B?
He's fine. It makes up for the fact that he does have those problems with potential supply efficiency issues.
All right, I'm okay with B. Artanis, where do we have him?
So Artanis is your tanky guy. That's what he do. He be tanky. That's his purpose in life, basically.
That is his thing.
He will shield you. He will shield your ally, and dragoons have a lot of range, which is good for them because that means that they'll be able to not get, caught up with units that are the wrong polarity. They'll be able to actually reach their targets while being durable.
Yes.
He's just decent and very easy to play here. You'll probably end up wanting to use depending on how proactive you are, if you're top bar, you may want to use a prestige that actually has Guardian Shell, because that way you can just passively be helping your ally. But if you're very proactive about Shield Overcharge is better than Guardian Shell. It's just that you have to actually manually know to use it. You have to press the button.
Yes, and manage the cooldown also.
If you trust yourself to press the button, you can go ahead and go P3. The cooldown becomes quite short compared to the duration. It's a 40-second duration and a minute and a half cooldown, meaning almost 50% uptime. So you could just have a shield all the time if you trust yourself to do that. And if you don't, just grab P0 probably, honestly. You're just making dragoons.
So letter.
Honestly, basically, I think he's kind of like B, except maybe A because of sheer ease of use. But you might end up accidentally using up too much supply on your ally then again, and your ally might just not do anything proper. Yes, so we could stick him in B.
What do you think, Eviling?
Very good point made by Sticks. I have him from B to C. He does rely on energy, on army, and he does also rely on SOA energy, of course, too. For P3, if you want to get more value, group together with your ally and then use the shield overcharge there. Something to consider. P1 actually makes your army more supply efficient, not cost efficient, supply efficient. So that is something.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think we can meet in B. I personally had it in B. Sticksbender had it in B, and then Eviling's okay with B to C. So we agree on B, right?
Yep.
All right. Cool. And
I would also give a warning. I would give a warning about using P1. Just The single simple warning I would give is just remember that doesn't buff Dragoons in any way. So if you were already planning on Dragoons, it doesn't make very much sense.
Fair point. So, unanimous B, I think. Unanimous, close enough. Even without prestige, I think it's still B. Dehaka, where do we have him?
Dehaka I had from S to A. He is very supply efficient with P2. He doesn't need to rely on Essence. If he can't farm it, just make sure you get out your pack leaders and then start going away at it. He already doesn't have to worry about he already starts with 200 maximum supply, so that's nice where you don't have to be limited to figuring out any sort of depot overlord, any of those sort of issues. And otherwise, as long as you're not taking up a whole bunch of supply by making a bunch of primal wardens and making mutas or creeper hosts, you should be fine. It's gonna play almost like a hero solo to a certain extent.
Kind of. How about you, Sticksbender?
Oh yeah, he definitely S. You just slam big dinosaur into everything. You don't really need supply or essence or anything. You just slam big dinosaur into everything.
Unanimous S for Dehaka. I also had him in S. Let's move on. Phoenix, where do we have him?
Phoenix is in a bit of a rough spot because he's not supply efficient generally.
Yeah.
He uses very supply intensive armies rather than very supply efficient armies. So I would expect Phoenix to have some serious problems here with that. He also doesn't have anything great for polarity aside from carriers maybe, which means you would be using not P2, which kind of makes sense because P2 often ends up being even less supply efficient. And then you can't really get a critical mass of carriers because otherwise you're hogging too much supply from your ally. He just feels pretty not great. He could be like C or D even. Like this is a bad day for Phoenix.
Actually, it makes sense. How about you, Sticksbender? Or Eviling?
I disagree with that. I have Phoenix from A to B because with P2, he does become pretty supply efficient. If it's a ground comp, you accomplish quite a bit with just your Centurions, aka Rage a lot. And from that point on, at most, that's going to get full tactical data web going, you need 9 shells. Yeah, 20 supply. And that's swingable. That is swingable.
What do you think about that? So wait, where do you have him first?
A to B.
A to B. And Sticksbender had him in C. So what do you think about that, Sticksbender? About just having the angry zealot?
It's something you can try running with. The problem with just using Angry Zealot is that, well, one, if it's an air comp, you're going to have a problem. And two, he's not the greatest at handling polarity because of just all the units that he won't be able to kill. Plus, when you send in your Angry Zealot, he kills a bunch of stuff, and then he dies. And now your ally is left hanging for the entire travel time of your Angry Zealot getting back, which is not the greatest outcome in the world.
Yeah. I'm actually with Sticksbender. I also had him in C. I initially had him in B, but after hearing Sticksbender, I think I'll put him down in C. That does make a lot of sense. The weakness against air, the travel time, and again, Donny Vermilion is one of those maps where sometimes 2 waves hit at different spots at the same time. It's happened before, and I know that when you're going on the offensive, you can recall once to one spot, but how about the other spot? How about your ally who's also pushing with you? Not sure about A to B. I think C is where I'll stick with, unless Eviling comes with something convincing. What do you think, Eviling?
So to go with your ally, if you need to hit 2 spots, you have your champion. So let's back up a little bit, addressing the air issue. If it's an air comp, go with Talus and Mojo. That in itself doesn't cost. It's going to be a little more supply, but you're talking up to 40 supply. So 40 supply of army, that's again swingable. You just need to be very conscientious about how much supply you're taking up, how much you need to maximize use of the tactical data web. I think for adepts, it's, if I remember right, 11 adepts, and for scouts, I think it's 6. So it is a good amount more to account for an air comp, but swingable. And to address the other part about being in 2 places at once, you have your champions going one way, you have your hero that doesn't take any supply. Phoenix can
also
do
make
quite a bit. Exactly.
How about the travel time issue?
Travel time, just don't have your shells too far behind. Have your champions hotkeyed. So this is getting to the point of mechanics issues, which you can't expect too many pubs to be on top of. It's doable. With that being said, I I guess I will change my range from B to C because yeah, it will be a lot of mechanics to juggle, to split, to manage your champions properly, and to make sure your supply doesn't hinder your ally, and also making sure your tactical data web is at its maximum.
What do you think
So
about that? What do you think about that, Sticksbender?
Yeah, I suppose. I still feel like you're probably going to have complications with just fighting Polarity as Phoenix. P2 Phoenix against Polarity is not exactly the cleanest thing you will ever witness.
I actually agree
That's
with
all
that.
I'm gonna stick to warning.
Yeah,
Something I
especially
would like-
since you're just one guy. If random Zergling makes its way to your ally's base and you're not really putting a lot of stuff everywhere, that Zergling can be an actual pain for your ally that you can't deal with, because if you send your champion back, that's your entire pushing force. Yeah, now I remember, yeah, that's the most annoying thing about Polarity. If there's one single unit at your ally's base, you will need to pre-plan and have cannons pre-placed there so that you can still...
If it's one single Zergling, you just warp in a bunch of shells.
which will consume
They
supply.
will, which will consume supply, but it's again, if you're not at maximum tactical data web, then you're going to do that anyways. Another aspect I would like to that we haven't talked about, conservators. They do a heck of a lot to
They do
help.
pretty good. They do pretty well. Yes.
And another aspect, if you got something that's bothering you that is not polarized for you, Arbiter suit. Arbiter can stasis it.
That's true.
So
That's true.
that is a very potent crowd control that not too many people use against Polarity. And when I seen it used, it makes a big difference.
Sticksbender, how do Talus and Mojo fare when pushing into an enemy base?
Let's just say I typically tend to just force solo Talus to work when I'm using P2 against their comps oftentimes, because I just don't like Mojo's performance against anything but waves, and even against waves it's unreliable because he has to be a Scourge, and you need your shell farm nearby for it to work.
So solo Talus is better, you think?
I prefer solo Talus. It's a little bit more honestly with Talus, with how adepts are ranged and how Talus has less range than the rest of the adepts. She ends up in front, so you can actually kind of just get away with a move slamming your entire adept ball into the problem, and it isn't the worst thing ever at all.
Not the worst thing ever. Okay, so are we okay with putting Phoenix in B?
I'm still not convinced I'm putting Phoenix in B though.
Yeah, personally, I'm still thinking C.
You can definitely do better with all three of the people already in B.
Yeah,
That is a
definitely
very
think,
good point.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
think that
I
the
think
guys in B.
C is a appropriate place. Sticks has him in D. I said B to C, and then you said C. So C is a good middle ground.
All right, have him in C. Hot and Horner, where do I have him?
D for dog crap.
Ooh.
They need army. They need army, so they're going to consume a good amount of supply. You have salvage, that's nice and all, that helps, but
Yeah,
their
but-
army is very not tanky either, so they're going to just be losing stuff rapidly. If you're good with your galleon control, you'll be able to keep it going, and hopefully your ally will get on top of whatever's essentially killing off your army. A salvage will help you stem that bleeding a little bit.
And they don't have static defense.
They don't have static defense. They do have widow mines, they do have mag mines, and they do have strike fighters to help deal with stuff that sneaks into your base. But again,
Not the same.
widow
as
mines,
cannons.
strike fighters, that all takes
supply.
which is a problem. So
How about you,
I
Sticksbender?
feel like D probably makes a lot of sense for them. They are not going to have a particularly good time. They are just going to be not very supply efficient, right? Which was one of our primary goals, was to try to be supply efficient, and they will
Yes.
fail at that.
All right.
They are,
So D.
I don't have much to add. They're bad.
Yeah, no
D.
one has.
I agree.
There's no silver
Han
lining,
and Horner's
unfortunately.
the Phoenix will perform a little better than Han and Horner.
The only reason they're not in E is because at least they have damage output, so they do something, but not very well. Let's move on. Karax, where do we have him?
Karax on the flip side is good. He can just make buildings, and buildings don't take very much supply, generally
The
speaking.
more you know.
Yeah, believe it or not, you generally don't need very much supply to make buildings. Crazy, I know.
Insane.
A very profound discoveries here. Buildings don't cost a lot of supply.
This is the content you watch our tier lists for, guys.
Except for one
I know.
command.
It's why you're here. It's why you're here to subscribe and like the video. Anyways, the other thing is that you have Spear of Adun, and Spear of Adun also doesn't take supply, and it can just kind of win the entire game by itself.
Kind of.
It's pretty good. Yeah, he should be. I would expect him to be an easy S.
How about you, Eviling?
Agreed. S, easy S for all the points Sticks made.
All
Very
right.
well known for P3 just demolishing everything, because that doesn't require army. You just need to your solar forge efficiency, get the upgrades, and you'll be able to wipe stuff. And if for the tanking purposes, you have shield batteries, put them all over the place, stall aim on for however long until your ally realizes, oh, this is getting attacked.
All right, perfect. I'll just add Unity Barrier and Repair Beam for tanking. I actually had him in A, but both of you had him in S, so let's have him in S. Kerrigan, where do we have him?
Kerrigan, another S for me. She's well known for hero soloing, which is extremely supply efficient.
Extremely.
Omega Worms, very supply efficient,
Very
hero
tanky
supply,
too.
and you spam them all over the place and tank for your army. And also grant your ally healing, attack speed, and mobility if they're using the Omega Worms.
And Detection.
And detection.
Letter. Oh yeah, S. How about you, Sticksbender?
Oh yeah, she also makes it rain money if you remember to use that button.
Yes.
Oh, and she also has a mass AoE stun for her ult on like a 2-minute cooldown,
Oh,
less
yeah.
with ability efficiency.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So letter.
she's good. She's S. She's good.
All right, unanimous S. There we go. Nova, where do we have him?
Okay, this lady does actually have only 100 max supply, and that is a problem because what can happen is your ally can go over 100 supply, and now what's going to happen is your ally is, vibing with your combined supply at 120, 140. They have lots of wiggle room, and you can't do anything because you're at 140 out of 100, so you're stuck. So that sucks. However, you do have a very strong hero unit, and your hero unit can pull most of your weight. Also, you have a very strong top bar to burn your money on, which is nice. Nova's actually someone who actually has good reason to expand, even if she doesn't expect to have the supply to spend that money, because she can just spend it on
Airstrike.
using an airstrike every single attack wave,
Plus,
which will make
if she's
yeah.
on fire, she doesn't beg her ally to come. She forces her ally to come.
You pick them up, you pick it up, and you put it on the ground. Anyways, yes. You also have another thing that is defensive drone. Defensive drone is extremely strong. It's
Oh yes.
one of the strongest tools Nova has. Her three strongest tools: Starport, defense drone, and her hero unit. So one of those gets kind of inconvenienced, the Starport, because you can only make units in the early game, and then you have to keep those alive. Because if you lose them, your ally is probably not going to be too quick to allow you to remake them.
Especially if
But-
they go over 100 supply.
Yes, but your top bar, it's still there, and your hero unit is still there, so she's probably pretty good. I would say she can be probably around A. I would expect maybe B, but depends on how much you're worried about the supply problem.
How about you, Eviling?
I have Nova from A to B. She's very supply efficient. Defensive drones allow for good tankiness. Raven turrets, just plop them down. That's free tanking for against ground. Nova herself accomplishes a lot, and she costs 0 supply and is one of the most expendable units in your army.
All right. So,
So,
do we
again, A to B.
compromise on A?
It works, yeah.
A
All
is
right,
perfect.
Perfect. Which prestige, by the way? Still Soldier of Fortune?
Yeah, I
Soldier
prefer
Fortune.
You can go with infiltration specialist. You will have a little bit of a harder time defending waves because you don't have unless it's a ground comp and you know how to time the charges, in which case then you're going to have absolutely no trouble at all with infiltration specialist. But if it's an air comp or you're not very good at timing those, then you're going to have to use your units, and you won't have a lot of those. But with a healthy top bar supplement, you should be fine. And then that way you can clear out your half of all the bases with fleet safety. So then you just need your ally to go and clear the map when the bases are all at half strength. So that works pretty nicely.
All right.
I would not recommend infiltration specialists just because of polarity.
Oh, yeah.
Having the shotgun mode is pretty crucial. And so P1 has an advantage where you can, if you go starport first, spam out those Raven turrets, help stall ways so your ally can get there. I would actually also say P2 is viable for this because, again, polarity, your airstrikes are only going to get half the wave. So that already in itself is going to make
Half as
airstrikes
efficient.
off exactly. Whereas you still have airstrike, but you
It's
have
not
the
gonna do
ability to say,
everything.
ally, come here and deal with this now, please. Very often, every 30 seconds.
That, except without the please.
Usually, yes.
All right.
Yes, I said, come here.
Exactly. So, Nova A, yeah, like they said, Soldier of Fortune, and maybe Tactical Dispatcher also
Tactical
works.
dispatcher.
Even without Prestige, I think will still work But for the others, Dehaka, any prestige works. Karax, you want Solarite Celestial. Kerrigan, any prestige works, except probably Malevolent Matriarch. You do want Omega Worms. Alarak, preference is Shadow of Death, but if failing that, no prestige also works. Nova, yeah, we already discussed that. Abathur, you want Tunneling Horror or no prestige, Evolution Master. Arcturus, we prefer Toxic Tyrant, right?
Yes. Also, Karax is completely fine if you're anything except for the unit one.
Templar Parent.
Templar Parent, yes, that one. If you're literally anything else, Karax is fine.
Yes. For Phoenix, yeah, there was some back and forth about that. Han and Horner, you definitely want Chaotic Power Couple. If you really want to do Han and Horner, we recommend Chaotic Power Couple. Or if you watch this video and you still want to do Han and Horner, you're probably a masochist. Just do Galactic Gunrunners. Yes.
Nah, use the Magmines. Do an impressive Magmine solo of the
A
mission.
Magmine solo? Sure. If you want to do Magmine solo,
Yes.
do Chaotic Power Couple. Artanis, Archship Commandant works. Failing that, you can still use no prestige. Hierarch of the Daylum. Alright, let's move on. Raynor, where do we have him?
Raynor, same boat as Han and Harder, D for dog crap. He relies a lot on his supply, and he's not tanky. I would actually, thinking just with those two things being said, I'd actually say from D to E, more leaning toward E.
More E. Ooh. How about you, Sticksbender?
I don't think he's necessarily worse than Han and Horner. Another note is that, okay, actually, this is not something I'm confident in. I seem to remember people saying that, like, if your ally had air units and you were P3, it would count towards giving you cooldown reduction, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about that.
So to be honest, if you just run with P3 Raynor, you obviously will have limited supply, but you can get some supply of air units out, and then that will allow you to have a big angry hero unit for a decent amount of uptime.
Yeah.
Which will just translate into being
Plus, unlike Han
that's-
and Horner, you have bunkers.
You have bunkers, but you have a hero unit that can do a lot of work, and I'd say that Jimmy's probably going to have a bit of a better time than Han and Horner with P3. Not much of a better time. I definitely be able to see him being in the same tier, but definitely not worse.
Alright, so we ultimately all agree on D tier. So he will be in D tier. Prestige, you do want Rebel Raider, but failing that, no prestige works just fine. Statboy, where do we have him?
Imagine needing anything other than just Gary.
Zerglings,
Gary
the
is
tank.
everything.
Couple
Maybe.
investors.
They're optional.
Yes.
Anything that isn't Gary is optional.
Yes.
Literally.
You want
anything that isn't
Zerglings to give Gary best soil, so he gets more angry.
Yeah, well, I mean,
You don't need much, but you just
you don't
want some.
need the Zerglings, but yes, they are helpful for that.
Yes, letter.
So, honestly, he'll probably make it into A. You just slam Gary into things. You can get either a couple supporting Zerglings, a couple supporting Infestors, or both. Yeah, Gary does everything. He can teleport. You could get Steadilite zones, which buff your ally.
Why
And
not S?
it's just a hero solo. Doesn't quite get Gary does have the problem of he's not quite got the map mobility of, say, a Kerrigan. Or,
That's true.
He's not quite as supply efficient as a Karax or Dehaka.
But he has elements of all three, I think.
He has elements of all three, but he doesn't really have anything to push him into the excelling aside from maybe the stat zones. Then
I could
Kerrigan
actually
wants to be
argue.
used by the ally.
I could actually argue that he could even be more supply efficient than Karax, at least. Dehaka maybe, because once he gets Super Gary, he can just throw all his workers away. And
He
make
can,
it
but if you do that, then you have no supporting units, and then you're really leaning into that
that Gary
problem
style.
of riddleness before.
Yes, but I'm
Well,
not
that
saying I'm not saying you
problem with
have
the
to.
Gary style, right?
I'm just saying that Karaxi will want that expansion if you're going for tower pushing. At
Yeah.
least, whereas you don't even need that for Statboy.
I think you're overestimating how expensive Karax towers are. He can totally live without the expansion. Honestly, I'd say that Karax has a good chance of finding that he doesn't want the expansion purely on the basis of it takes so much to defend it. If your ally
That's
isn't
true.
expanding, honestly, it's not worth bothering expanding as Karax.
That's true.
Just get your Spear of Verdun upgrades. Basically, the difference is Dehaka can just conjure a pack leader anywhere whenever he needs to. Kerrigan can conjure a wall of worms anywhere and instantly constantly get between worms, like back and forth as much as she needs to. Karax can just last anywhere on the map all the time.
Yes.
Unfortunately for Stetmann, he actually has to show up to things with Gary, and Gary can only teleport on a pretty long cooldown.
You can also use infestors to just conjure up an army. Doesn't need a
You
lot of
can
supply
also
into
use
infestors. That's
You
like
can't-
2 supply each. 2 supply each.
They're 2 supply each. But for that army to actually do anything, you're looking at getting like 10, 15, 20 infestors.
You don't need a lot. You just need
Eh.
to tank enough so that your
8
ally
to
can
10
get
is
there.
fine.
Okay,
But
fair.
anyway,
I
yeah.
think Zerglings are better for tanking anyways. But the point is, I think that he's just only A.
All right. How about you, Eveling?
I initially had Stetmann from S to A, but after hearing the arguments, I have him at a solid S now because he does one thing particular to this map, which was not mentioned.
Blue zone.
Blue zone allows you to pick up
Crystals.
the crystals quickly and return them quickly. Kerrigan's nice because you can use an Omega Worm to get the drone there real quick and pick it up, but they still have to slug it back. Stetmann makes it happen quicker, and you could make the mission go by quicker.
It doesn't go by quicker at a steady rate. It just
Yes.
goes by quicker on the last crystal. So I wouldn't
Agree.
say it influences it that much, but I still
I think
agree
it's
with
more,
the blue
I think
zone
it's
in
more
general.
a thing of managing to get the crystal home without it being caught by a
Safely.
wave that now you have to deal with, and
I
that
guess
wave
that's
has
true.
both of you having to deal with
Exactly.
it.
I would
just
actually-
slows down killing things.
I would actually argue more for the green zone because you do help your ally directly in fights, even when you're not there. To just get there. It also, if you
Agreed.
overcharge the green zone, that's so many defensive drones. That we agree.
They're bad defensive drones compared to Novas, though.
But lots of bad defensive
It's still-
drones.
You can only overcharge 2 at a
Quantity over
time, though.
quality.
You know what? That's true.
Whereas
Yeah, but
Nova
it's
can
still.
have 5 charges of defensive drones.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. But they're free.
There's no denying Stetmann's green overcharge is defense drone light. That's not say it's bad, but it is defense drone light.
All right, so we're S to A here. Again, ultimately, if it's not unanimous, it's S. So, Sticksbender, are you convinced?
Nah, I'm not
Alright.
convinced that he's S.
It's not
I think
unanimous,
I
therefore
think
it's not
he's still a
S.
step below the other 3.
All right, that's fair. A's still pretty good. I'm not mad about my favorite commander not being an S, unlike some people. Let's move on. Stukov, where do we have him?
I have Stukov from B to C. He can tank a lot, but he does require supply. Those
Not much.
bunkers require a lot of supply, in order to be like relevant in the game. But again, the tankiness helps out a lot. It buys your ally a lot of time, and you can, with all the infested around, so many targets for Amon to deal with, you can sneak SCVs in or workers in to snag the crystals and get out. So not the greatest, but definitely workable. P, on the other hand, P1, I don't think that's going to be workable for this.
What do you think, Sticksbender?
I think P1's also workable because at least your factory units are a bit more supply efficient than you might think. A relatively small ball of them can actually do decently. But no matter what, basically, Stukov is just going to be in a bit of a spot of, if his ally is supply efficient, then he's fine. He doesn't care. He'll be able to do everything fine. So, like, if you had an Alarak or something, or any S tier. But if your ally is not supply efficient, you really need that supply. So you're going to run into problems as a result.
Slater.
I'd say he's probably in the C range.
In the C
personally.
range. I initially also had him in C, but now that I think about it, he only really needs to defend because the crystals spawn infrequently enough that you can just kind of alternate the Apocalypse and the Alexander, and you'll be able to clear enough that you'll be able to sneak that SCV and gather the crystal, and that's honestly all the offense you need. And for defense, couple bunkers, couple siege tanks, you're golden, to be honest. I think it could be. There's an argument, I think.
Where do you have Stukov at?
I originally had him in C, but the more I think about it, does he really need to push that hard at offense with many bunkers? If we're just gathering crystals, wouldn't just sending the Apocalypse be enough?
I mean, if we're happy just using the just gathering crystals approach, I mean, you'd be better looking at B tier. You'd be probably better off with just, I stun the entire base while dropping a worker on the crystal from the sky, or I have literal guardian shell for the worker. Those both seem even better to me.
All right, fair argument. All right, so C, we have him in C.
Yeah, I would put him in C.
All right. Swann, where do we have him?
Swann makes buildings. His best unit is the factory.
Is a
as
building.
we all know. His best unit is the factory. So that's useful. I love when my best unit is a building. Thanks, Swann. So because his best unit is the factory, he's able to do quite a lot without really consuming any supply. You float factories around menacingly, and you make turrets all over the place, and that's just that. He's just a building commander. He's not a Karax level building commander necessarily, but he's definitely at least A. He could still be a contender for S.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because he has free repair. What do you think, Eviling?
Swann is my S. Free factories are supply efficient, turrets are supply efficient. If you're not using P1, conch beam, pulse cannon helps clear out a good amount of stuff. Even though you don't have polarity, conch beam is just gonna go all the way across the map and keep on clearing stuff. Even so, when your ally gets to those points, oh, I only have my stuff here to deal with. Oh, interesting.
All right. So what do you think, Sticksbender? S?
Yep, he can
All
be
right.
S.
I actually had Swann in A, but both of you had him in S. So let's have him in S. Tychus, where do we have him?
One may think that he is very supply efficient, and he is, but each outlaw takes up quite a bit of supply. So you need to be very mindful of that. It's if your ally is very proactive with their macro, they're going to make sure you don't have access to your third, fourth, fifth outlaw. With that being said, with prestiges in play, P1 makes your outlaws pretty efficient. P2 also makes them very efficient. Fundamentally, you only need 2 outlaws with P2 to take care of the mission. So just plan on not getting all your 5 outlaws out and go at it. For the most part, if you're used to clearing the whole map with 2 or 3 outlaws, this will play almost like a normal mission for you. I have him from B to C because most people will depend upon getting all those outlaws, and when they can't get the rest of their outlaws, they may have a brain fart or something to that extent and becomes an issue. But he has the ability to almost hero solo the map.
All right, that makes sense. So B to C. How about you, Sticksbender?
Yeah, I'd put him in B. His hero solo is his hero is very strong from like the get go. So even though you will probably not be able to get out 5 outlaws, you should be okay. Just be aware, yeah, he has 100 max supply. If your ally exceeds that 100 supply, it's gonna be a genuine problem.
If I recall correctly, the third outlaw is available at like 630 without the mastery. By 630,
So
I
you should
think,
be able to get 3 out. Yeah.
You think both commanders can't go over 100 supply by 6 minutes? I guess it depends on the
I don't know
commander.
about your allies, but mine aren't that good at macro.
All right, so
Something I would like to add, P3, Odin doesn't cost any supply. So that's a way to squeeze out another hero outlaw thingy.
it's a good one. Still rather have P2 though.
Agreed.
So B, right?
B.
Plays normally, but slightly bothered by not having
Less
extra
outlaws.
outlaws. Vorazun, where do we have him?
Vorazun unfortunately has to use units, and not great. Also, Shadow Fury has its unfriendly habit of being like, yes, I am going to now immediately start pummeling this unit that I can't damage, only my ally can damage. Very
Oof.
helpful, thank you.
It's quite oof.
So yeah, Vorazun's going to have not the best time, to say the least.
Letter.
I would say she's probably somewhere in the C, maybe D range. Well, C range because she doesn't need any supply to have access to time stop, and time stop will ramp up to be an insane top bar if you have P3. If you don't have P3, she's E. She's bad.
Dismal. What do you think, Eviling?
Vorazun, I have a wide range from B to D. It's kind of a cop-out in some sense. If you have a ground comp, she has a lot of crowd control to deal with it, from disruption web, stasis wards, time stop, black hole, etc. If it's air comp, that's when she starts running into issues, because the only way to CC air units is going to be black hole, time stop, or dark archon confuse. And dark archon confuse is not reliable. Black holes, you don't want to be black holing everything. Time stop only comes up every so often. So I can definitely, I would not be opposed to D, but
Alright.
she has potential to do a lot. And again, time stops helps a lot, especially if, oh, crystals spawned in enemy base. Oh, let's time stop and just send workers in. Oh, thank you for your crystal. I'll be leaving now. Bye bye.
Yeah, pretty much. I had her originally I had her in D, but she has the power of ally. Get over here. So that bumps her up to C for me. But ultimately, both of you guys had her in D, right?
I would like to say put her in C. She's not that horrible because of all her CC mechanics, but I can definitely see D if it's for specific comps.
What do you think, Sticksbender? Okay with C?
Come on,
I
you know
guess.
you love Vorazun.
I guess.
All right, let's put
She
Vorazun
can
in
do
C.
it.
Ultimately, what does it for me is she has ally. Get over here for her polarity thing.
Ally, get over here because I have all this stuff CC'd for you ready for the picking.
Yes, pretty much.
Yes.
Zagara, where do we have
Also,
him?
just the fact that she can just turn off the enemy base for 20 seconds, which is long enough to just grab the crystal and leave.
And leave. Zagara, where do we have him?
Zag. So she's a 100 supply commander. She can max out really quickly. So you can run into issues or causing issues for your ally. But the other aspect is P3 has a very supply efficient unit and can go around the map and clear a whole bunch of stuff just on her own and she generates very supply efficient units as hunter killers. Baneling drops not the best, but it's still very supply efficient, zero supply cost units. I have her from A to B.
A to B. How about you, Sticksbender?
I think that she's like tops out at B. She's B to C, but yeah, her Urian is decent.
Okay.
B,
So we meet
it
halfway
feels
at
like a
B?
slight stretch, but she can be B. Yeah.
All right, meet halfway at B. That's where I had her. Zeratul, spin to win. Cannon's good. S, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Eviling, how about you?
S to A, pretty much.
Spin to win.
Same
Cannon's
things.
good. So you use
And legions
Herald.
don't cost any supply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Legions don't cost any supply. If you want to go for Knowledge Seeker, the Avatar doesn't cost any supply. Plus, you can trap the artifact fragments, so that's even better. But I think spin to win might be,
If this wasn't a polarity, 2-2 would probably do a no mining
a no mining
run of this.
probably.
No mining solo of
So
this.
okay, Zeratul S tier. Is there anyone here who deserves a double S? No, because polarity.
Exactly. Polarity and the sharing is caring part.
pretty much the
It
correct
gets
answer there.
odd.
Yeah. Who's top of A or S rather?
I would like to say either Zeratul
Karax
or Kerrigan.
or Kerrigan. I would, if it's between those two, I would say Zeratul because he doesn't have air problems.
I don't think Kerrigan has air problems. That's like
Don't?
that's from the pre-prestige era. Having air problems is Kerrigan.
Okay, so who's top of S?
I'd say Kerrigan. Yeah, I'd agree with Kerrigan.
All right, Kerrigan top of S. There we go. Then Zeratul.
Then Zeratul.
All right, because I presume because of Omega Worms, right?
Yes,
Yes.
allows you to get the crystals much quicker.
And then if
Omega
their,
Worms are
their
very good.
attack waves, Kerrigan you just chew on these while my ally tries to get here.
She has infinite chew toys.
Chew toys, exactly. And after
Here are the speed
Zeratul-
bumps.
Yeah, you call it whatever you want. You can call it a distraction, a speed bump, a chew toy, a wall, what have you.
Always
After
bring
Zeratul-
chew toys when training your invulnerable units.
After Zeratul, is it Dehaka or
Probably
Karax?
Karax. I would say
Karax?
Karax. Karax
Agreed.
and Dehaka than Swann.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. Karax, Dehaka, Swann. All right, top of A is Stetboy, right? Has to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
And then
That's not even a question.
And then Nova or Alarak? actually
I'd say
thinking
Nova's
Alarak.
because she can help tank
Really?
for her ally
Defensive drone?
transportability.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Actually,
Alarak is just
first.
pure raw damage power and some CC.
Yeah, actually thinking for Alarak just to tank with Nexus, that doesn't sound very fun. So let's put Nova. Who's top of B? Tychus? Tychus is really solid here. And he has a
Tychus is
really...
Tychus.
He plays almost normal. So I would say he has a strong candidate for top of B. What do you guys think?
I'm not really seeing any competition with Tychus, so yeah, sure.
Yeah, Abathur is the closest competition, but he needs to get his biomass going. Tychus doesn't need biomass or any of that farming shenanigans.
Yes.
She's got a very strong early game.
Where does Zagara go?
Above Abathur.
Above
Because
Abathur?
again, no biomass issues, so she can get going.
So Zagara goes
as soon
second?
as- yes.
Yeah, see, the thing is, Abathur can get 3 Brutalisk. Zagara starts with half a Brutalisk. That's the difference.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Abathur's
so
got to work.
Abathur's got to work. So who's better between Arcturus and Artanis?
I don't know, honestly, between those two. They're very different. Like, very different.
Yes. It's almost
Arcturus,
awkward.
Arcturus is for himself. Artanis, non P3 or even with P3, can be helpful to their ally.
You know what? I might lean toward Artanis here.
Exactly.
They both consume a lot of supply, maybe unintentionally at some points, but Artanis leases Garden Shell or Shield Overcharge and can Chrono Boost his ally. Arcturus can repair. Yeah, I'd rather have it to give it to Artanis this time. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Fine, you love
yeah, I'm
Artanis.
okay with that. I'm okay with that.
All right.
Yeah, I think basically the real thing here is that basically Artanis is better like in general here. Arcturus is better if you are trying to just carry a completely not their ally because he
Kinda.
at least has the stun lock available as an option.
Kind of.
And Arcturus has the ability to just drop a laborer in and scoot out with the crystal.
Basically, he has better forced carry if it comes down to that.
Who's top of C?
Probably the.
I would say Stukov just
I'd
because
say
he has
Vorazun.
tankiness.
I would say Vorazun because
Vorazun?
she has.
Get
turn
Ally, get
everything
over
off.
here.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
fair.
she can drag her ally over, but also she can just turn the map off.
Turn the map off, CC Amon into oblivion.
All right.
Yeah.
And then Phoenix. Phoenix also has Ally, get over here. A little bit.
I would say
Yes.
Stukov is better than Phoenix, though.
Stukov. Yeah, because
Because of the
Stukov just
tankiness.
needs to
like,
defend.
I mean,
I agree
I
with
was
that.
originally thinking Phoenix would probably be like, so, you know.
All right. So
You should know, I
Vorazun.
don't think Phoenix is in a great spot here.
Are we okay with this? Vorazun,
I'm
Stukov,
okay
then
with that.
Phoenix. All right. For D, who's top of D?
I think Jimmy's better slightly.
Jimmy's better slightly. I'm okay with that. All right. So this is our tier list. Do we have any synergies of B, C, or D guys who might be better than one S guy? Yes, any of them because of polarity.
yes.
Teamwork is better than being alone. Because
Although technically Alarak has soloed this thing, but that was difficult.
I'd rather not. I'd
Yes,
rather
it's
not.
like, yeah, he can, but no.
Why would you?
Yeah.
I think Zagara and Artanis, a dream team.
Yeah.
Zagara and Artanis. Like Zagara just has the hero. If she does make Zerglings, they have Garden Shell
Garden
or
Shell.
even Shield Overcharge
Yeah.
to make sure
Zagara.
everything connects.
Honestly, like, look at the lower tiers. If you see someone who's supply efficient and someone who's supply inefficient, you can pair them together and they'll do fine.
They'll do very fine. And probably if we're gonna have a double S tier here, what I would put on double S is a microphone and a pair of headphones. Voice chat is a double S tier for this week. Voice chat with your ally, be on the same page, organize when to attack, when to defend. That will get you through. Probably no matter which two commanders you have. Probably. Right?
Or worst case, if you don't have voice chat, just be willing to pause a game and type a quick message to your ally.
Pausing is really good
It's
here.
some people get peed off by it, but it's a co-op game, so just
Yes.
try to play along. Please
Sure.
play nicely, kids.
All right, so that's it for this tier list. Guys, watch Sticksbender's channel. I will link it down below, and I'll see you guys next time.